Yes.
I do like that mask. That's cool.
Well, thank you. We ordered these for Christmas. They asked me about real estate. It does draw a lot of attention when you're out in the crowd.
Where did you get it from?
Amazon somewhere.
Oh.
Just type in mask about
Okay.
realtors. Amazon somewhere. Yeah, there's a little website that any kind of career you have, they have a mask for it. They were not very expensive, but we're going to have a little checklist. These are required with every transaction that you do for a buyer. And it tells about what you need in your box. Now your boxes are an electronic system. I've told y'all many times I'm old school. I keep a paper file because I like something in my hand when I go to the title company. I don't like a question answered and I don't have a way to access it. I probably do, but I'm not going to dig through my phone or my laptop at title. I have a paper file and then I keep it in box. Box is required for Texas Real Estate Commission. We have to have our files for 4 years. So, this is everything that's required. Some things are not applicable, so NA would go beside it. If it's not built before 78, you wouldn't need lead base. If it is, you would. Sometimes they didn't do an inspection, so if it's not applicable, the way I do it, it says date. I put the date that something's received. If you did an information about brokerage service, even if you emailed them, but you're still going to put that in the contract. It's required for TREC. Where brokerage services we get paid and talks about intermediary. That's pretty much the basis of it. I just put the date that it was signed. And then when I get down to the finish line, we've done our final walkthrough and we have our final closing disclosure. HUD settlement statements are now closing disclosures. HUD went out of that's still for cash. I'm talking to Henry. I'm getting him up to date that fast. HUDs are for cash. Closing disclosures come from the lender to the title company, and it gives the final numbers they need for closing. That, once everybody signed, buyer seller signs, you're going to get that with your check or through an email from the title closer, the escrow officer. That signed copy's due in your file. So take one of these. Yeah, take one of those and pass it around. And we're going to talk about the new 1 to 4 contracts. I'm going to turn off lights here in a minute and jump on the computer and show you. The biggest thing with the new sales contract now is always before, I say always, many years now, before you had to jump and hurry to get your option money to the seller in their hand or get into the listing agent's hand. You had to drive there, then you had to go to title. Well, they have simplified that to everything goes to title now. And it can even be on one check. So you got your earnest money and your option all going to title. Title holds that option. If the contract falls apart, they just disperse it. So we're not having to chase, you know, getting stuff. We may still have to go deliver cashier check to title. A lot of people are doing wires. They wire their earnest and their option. They can actually wire it straight to the title company. You do want to tell them, this is very, very important. You do want to tell them, title emails you a wiring instruction. Have your bank teller personally call that title company and verify, because there's so much, they call it, I'm a real idiot when it comes to this stuff, but phishing or scams, where they can go in there and transpose those numbers, and you know, through your email, if you get hacked and you don't know it, so always have your bank verify where they're wiring it to, that it's proper. But they can wire everything, so it takes us off the road some, which is nice. I appreciate that because, you know, I burned 52,000 miles my first year in real estate, so yeah, 400 miles a day driving all over creation, but you know, when you gotta make it, you gotta make it. So, you know, we didn't have Facebook. Could you survive real estate today without Facebook? Yeah, I could, but you have to go back to old school.
Challenging.
I advertise HUD foreclosures on the Craigslist. I've got every Tom, Dick, and Harry known to man, good, bad, and ugly, and worse. But that's how I built my business. Between that and out word of mouth, talking to people, you know, meeting them in the grocery store, running into dollar store or wherever, gas station. Always have my badge on. Drives my husband totally crazy. We're out eating dinner. It wants to be his time totally. I'm wearing my badge. Somebody may see I'm a realtor and may ask a question. Or where might ask me about real estate. Wherever I go. You know, and I've run into people standing in a long line getting tags for a car. And ended up going straight to the house and doing an evaluation on the house right then. So, let people know what you do for a business. You do, maybe you don't socialize. Maybe because of COVID, you don't go out and socialize. You're not around a bunch of people. But you do know people. I promise you get your hair done, your nails done, you get your eyes examined, you have your teeth cleaned, you go to the doctor, you buy groceries, you go to the dollar store, you drive through Taco Casa. I love chiladas, by the way. You drive through Taco Casa, you go to Taco Bell, you do business, you spend money, you're around people. So
They should all know that you're a realtor.
everybody should know you're a realtor. Absolutely everybody should know you're a realtor. So, I'm going to jump down here and jump on a computer. Don't flip those lights on.
Yes, ma'am.
Behind that door, it's kind of inconvenient. We're going to look at this 1 to 4. Oh, by the way, mark on your calendars, and Sharon will send it out to May the 11th on Tuesday morning at 10 o'clock. Fidelity National Title would be here, and we have had a really hard time with home warranties. Not National Title, I'm sorry. National Fidelity Home Warranty is coming, not National. I always confuse them with the title company. Fidelity Home Warranty is coming, and they will bring breakfast, and they will talk about their home warranty. We're hearing great reviews on them. Some of the other companies we have used in the past were not. So we've asked them to come for that morning. And I think we're going to talk about listings that day. How to list a home, how to properly list a home, all documentation that's needed and required.
You say May 4th?
11th on Tuesday, second Tuesday. Starting in June, we're going to go back to a Tuesday night. When COVID happened, American National Bank was supposed to come and talk about their construction loan, so I may check with Jody and see if she can come. So, if you do have your computer and you want to look, pull up 101 Brandon Lane in Forney. It'll be under residential and it's under option right now. But 101 Brandon Lane. This is one of my listings. We're going to plug and fill the new 1 to 4 residential contract. So, if I can do it. If I'm still logged in. I talked too long this morning. Okay, so do you know how to get to zip forms?
No. Is this MLS though that you're in?
And Netris.
Okay. I don't think I have access. Like I haven't gone through my class yet. Do you have print sign now?
You don't have access to Netris right now?
No, I don't think so.
Hop on over there let's get over there with Katie and look at what she's gonna do. Do you need something?
I was gonna see if we could print some.
So it's under external links.
You can go print some if you
I
want.
was
This is
trying
where
to.
every form that you're gonna
From where
need,
I was trying to
pretty
print.
much, is gonna come from one of
You
your
can't print
typing
from your
contracts.
computer?
Let's see
It's
if
not printing from
it's
my
Information
forms.
Worker
My
Services.
zip form login.
So if I haven't
That's where I
done
was
that
trying
in
to- You want to help me with that orientation?
Go, jump on my computer in there and log in to Netris.
Yeah, you have to do
And
that.
put
Have
the
you
1 to
done
4
the
resale.
YouTube webinar?
No, not yet. Cause I. So.
Let's
Do my
see what
number.
we're gonna do here. We'll do,
Yeah, I
okay,
know that you
so
don't have one very often.
we're in our zip forms.
2 weeks or something.
We're gonna do new. This is a purchase. Okay. The purchase. Henry Ford's buying 101 Brandon Lane. And it's residential. And we're going to scroll down and we're going to click save. Okay. So I have a new transaction.
If you wanna click around, since I've already done it.
So we're going to go into documents. Okay, it doesn't fit very well on this board. I think we just need to get rid of our board and go to the black screen or something.
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna go into all forms. I use Texas Realtor forms. There's a drop down over here at the top, but I use Texas Realtor forms.
So if you
And
drop down this, would you?
we're gonna go to a 1 to 4.
I click
It's hard to
all.
watch
Those are
the,
the different
watch the
category
board and
categories.
watch this at the same time.
So
Okay.
it's citrus there.
So the
1, 2,
seller,
4, the letter 1, I mean,
if you go back into, I think the only one in here that doesn't know, you remember how to find the seller's name?
No.
Okay, okay, hang on.
That's- okay. And then if you click it, I click out. Yep.
Well flipped, okay, here we go. Okay, so to find the seller's name, I'm back at the listing. Under the TX, under the photos.
Just one.
Oh no, don't do that to me. Okay, well never, it's great for somebody to learn the hard
It's
way.
okay.
So we're gonna learn the hard way. Normally you would pull that, when you clicked on that, it would pull the tax roll.
What did you
But
click?
si-
I'm sorry, I missed it.
The TX under the TX, right here.
It's supposed to. Huh.
It's not clicking to it for some reason. Let me see if I can go to the parcel ID and see if I can pull it. Oh no. Dog it. Okay, so there's more than one way to skin a cat. So we're gonna go open up a new page. We're gonna go to the Kaufman CAD. This was not planned. We're gonna do a property search. And it's 19149 is the number. And this is 101 Brandon. Shannon K. Smith, Etel. Shannon K. S. Smith, Etel. Okay, she is actually one of the heirs. So that's the name we're going to put back into our transaction. Shannon K. S. Smith. We're not going into what Etel means right now. It's too new for you. So we'll deal with that later. Normally we would have a name. We'd have, John Doe, or we'd have, Jane King or whatever. We would have a name and not Etel.
Kim,
Etel.
can I offer just a quick thought
Sure.
on that? A lot of times, because I'll still text the agent and just double check the names, because a number of times, even with the CAD, there's some reason or some family thing or some reason why that's not going to work on the, and then I've had to go back and redo and change it and get signatures again. So a lot of times I'll check with agents to make sure. I'll say, hey, it's such and such the proper name, because sure enough, if I don't, there's some kind of mix-up on it.
I agree. You can do that. There's no problem with doing that. Sometimes they have it in the bottom of the listing on the right hand side. They'll say the name. Sometimes as special notes to agents, they'll have the name that the contract's supposed to be in.
There's nothing more frustrating than you think you get it all done, and they said, there's supposed to be a D in there. Okay, it didn't show that, so.
I typed a contract last week, and in the transaction desk, it had offer instructions, like how to say it and stuff, which I think is pretty cool for any listing.
So you just go into the transaction desk on the listing and it takes you there?
That particular
On that
house,
particular
that
listing.
particular listing had a
And the
piece of paper of like everything that was needed in the offer. So like it was
In the
Great
transaction desk, they'll have sellers disclosure on that sewer survey, da-da-da. Sometimes the agents are actually putting in offer instructions, and that's basically what they're requesting as an offer.
But it had like the seller's name, it had like everything, the legal property address, everything. It
What
was
title company
super
they want to
nice.
use, how much they want for earnest
Yeah.
money. Okay, somebody look at the listing itself and tell me what the lot number is. The lot number is in the top description part.
22.
Lot 22, okay. No block,
A.
okay, and subdivision,
Left View
Estate.
Estate, number 2.
Okay, and this is City of Forney. And it's the County of Kaufman. And the last is known as, that's actual physical address, one that of the sale. So, whoops, and I touched something. 101 Brandon Lane in Forney, Texas. And then you put the zip code 75126. Okay? So, improvements, when you're dealing with a buyer wanting to go over improvements, it's really important that you explain to them what is included. Anything is permanently installed. So that could be carpeting, mirrors, ceiling fans, attic fans. I did buy a mailbox one day because it was the seller, it was sentimental. Her dad had built it, and when we got there the mailbox was gone. It was like great. So $70 at Home Depot, I got them a new mailbox. TV antennas, if they have, most people are on cable. All the plumbing, all the fixtures, all the chandeliers. So if there's something that's going to be excluded, it would be listed on the listing as excluded. Garage door openers, shrubbery. I had asked someone, is it okay if they take grandma's rose bush out of the garden? Because it's real important to them. So it was excluded. He says, I don't care. I don't know if I'd ever even noticed it was a rose bush. But I still had doubts. So accessories, when they're selling this home, because a lot of people don't understand because they don't read the contract, it says curtains and rods are included. So if they want these special curtains that match their special bedspread, they need to ask for it as an exclusion. It's supposed to be included. Stoves, window units, air conditioners. Need to read this, need to get a real good understanding of it. If there were exclusions, we would put there. This particular one, she's not excluding anything. Okay, somebody get the calculator out on the phone. Listing is $345,000. You're gonna have FHA buyer. How much is the down payment on FHA?
3.5.
3.5. 3.5. Conventional is 3, 5, 10, 15, 20, or whatever they want. FHA is 3.5%. How much is 3.5% down on $345,000?
$12,075.
$12,075.
Yep.
Okay. How much is the difference in 345 and minus 12,075? That's going to be your finance amount on the second one.
332,925.
332,925.
332,925.
Okay, and then the bottom total is the 345. So that's 3.5% down, 332,925 finance, $345,000 offer price. We didn't haggle on this one. We gave full price. In this market, you're giving 15 over to get a house.
Oh yeah, I see.
It's horrible.
Great Californians and New Yorkers coming.
Yep. So we have a third party financed in them. That means that it will direct the contract as the type of style of financing in the third party. Okay. We don't have any residential leases. We don't have any fixture leases. We don't have any natural resources. That natural resource in a 1 to 4 is if there's a propane tank that's rented or in the ground, if there's really, I think that's pretty much your natural resources if it's leased.
But solar panels too.
Solar panels could be, whether you leased or owned.
Fixture, please.
They could be both.
Could be both.
They could be either.
Okay.
So we just need to find out.
So if there's any natural resources, but Bruce, this is what we were talking about on the new 1 to 4. Natural resources leased. Propane tank leased. Solar panels leased. It could be different things that could be leased that could be on that property that you would be utilizing. I think propane tank and probably solar panels are the natural resources that I can think of. There could be other ones. Probably need to take a little class on that from MLS.
Yeah, I had my first one of those last week, and I just skipped over that part for now. Y'all have any direction?
Propane tanks or solar panels is the only thing we know that would be a natural resource, but you have to show them what they're paying on the lease. So if they're paying $75 a month for a propane tank lease on their property, you would just get a page from their propane company that shows that.
I think solar panels and propane tanks are fixture leases. On here it says.
Oh, you're right. I see. Yeah, it's fixture leases. Water softeners, security systems.
Oh, really? Okay.
So they're asking us to disclose all of this. They're presently with ADT, they're paying $65 a month. So there's some other things that we're going to have to disclose.
So when you say disclose, that means that's incumbent upon the seller's agent, is that what we're saying?
Yes,
So on the buyer's side,
we would collect it. There's a propane tank there, there's solar panels there,
Yeah.
there's a
Wind.
security
So
system
that
there.
could be wind turbines or something. Yeah.
And there's an addendum regarding fixture leases too. That's new. So we'll go in there and dig for that in a minute, remind me. Okay, write that down, remind me, we'll go look for it. I've only dealt in 1 to 4, or actually it was a new construction incomplete, which has changed too. And there's not anything attached. So, natural is saying gas leases, oil and gas, mineral leases, wind turbines leases. So that's what natural resources are. And you get out in the country and you will see some turbines, you will see some oil and gas leases. Unless they have those, because a lot of times those do not affect the present seller. They're from before and those minerals went to someone else. That all comes out in title. I don't think 3 days is long enough to get this stuff. I think it needs to be the length of time for the title policy, because some things will be coming out of title policy. 15 days? Okay, so I guess I put in something wrong up here on this thing. I think I put in town twice up here. And so on my second page I have Forney, Texas twice. So I'm going to take that out. And then go down to where it shows at the top. It's required at the top of each contract. So if you click on this, if there's a mistake, you can add Texas. And you'll have the right address across your second page. Earnest and option fee. This is where this is changed. Within 3 days after the effective date, buyer must deliver to, we're going to say, we're going to say Sarah Smith, and we're going to say Ranger Title, and we're going to say 409 North McGraw is the address of title. Okay. And then how much is the earnest money? So let's say it was $2,500. Let's just keep it even. Let's just do 1%. $3,000. And then say they're doing $200 for an option period. Okay. And if they were going to do any additional earnest money, this is where you would put it. So say they were putting $2,000 now or $3,000 now, but after their option period they wanted to deposit $2,000 more, you would put it in that number 1. And you give how many days. So say normally it would be $2,000 more. I'm not saying this is normal because we don't normally do that unless it's like a backup contract. But say they wanted to really look like a really tough buyer, they would say $2,000 more, and it would be at the end of the option period. So we're going to leave that blank for now. Termination option is, go ahead.
For the escrow agent, if we're using a title company that we're not familiar with, do we just call?
We call and get an escrow
Okay.
officer's name. And B, let's say they're given 5 days on option period. That's to do their little inspection and their due diligence. Okay. Title policy, Normal is the seller pays for it. Nothing's normal in this market. Nothing's normal. So if seller wasn't paying it and buyer was paying it, that's going to give more net to the seller. Do you know how to figure how much title policy is?
There's like a
It's a little
card thing.
Yeah, there's a little card thing you can use. There's also a formula that you can use, and it's the sales price minus 100,000, and it's times 0.0522. And whatever the first four numbers of that is, somewhere around what, $1,800
Times 0.
times 0.0522. What's your first four numbers? Somebody have an answer? No? Am I confusing you?
No, I'm calculating.
I'm calculating.
I always thought it was about 1% of the sales price.
$1,278.
Okay, plus $875. $875 is per thousand.
So-
100,000.
I don't know if you guys use this app by Independence Title 1 or whatever it is.
They have a calculator on it?
It's free, okay, but you can upgrade. One of the things you can do, you can go in and you can do buyer or you can do seller, right? And you just input the information and it automatically calculates everything for you. You can send a seller's net sheet, offers, multiple offers, right from this immediately.
Cool.
Calculates everything. It gives them a breakdown of detailed cost. If you want that, you can go in and look at the detailed cost. So if you are not using this app, I really recommend it. It has been really helpful for us.
Maybe
So-
we can get them in to come in and go over their app and explain how to work it. That would be
That's
awesome.
where we actually learned about it, was Claudia had come out here and told us about it.
Can I see what it looks like, the app, just
Yeah.
What's
because
the name of it?
the,
It's Independence Title.
Independence title.
so it has a star, orange and white
Yeah.
with one
Independence
on it.
Title Agent 1, I think is what it's
yeah.
called.
That's a great tool.
And like
I
I
like to
s-
use
it's free.
North American Title a lot for the next sheet.
Okay.
But,
North
they've got
American,
some things
used to
in
be
color.
North American
Black and
speak,
white's
but
better, but.
changed
Yeah.
to Independence.
I love it because it breaks
Because
everything
they have
down.
One
their
star.
fees in there, yeah.
Yeah, it's
Nice.
this, I don't know if you could see that. It's kind of like a orange star. Yes, that's it.
Yep. Cool.
Now,
That's a great tool.
yeah, we love it.
Okay.
It's good
so
to know
we're-
how to do it on your own though.
I agree. I think it's a great idea. It saves phone calls on figuring a net sheet for someone. I don't figure buyer's net sheets. I don't do that. And the reason I don't do that is because every lender has different fees.
Right.
So I let the lender do their job.
Yeah.
But I do seller's net sheets, and I'm within $100 of it.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's good.
Ranger title, we put it in the title policy. The will or will not be amended under number 8. This is shortages in the area. So shortages could be somebody says, Mr. Buyer, you just stuck your fence on my property. Or somebody realized next door is selling and they threw up a fence and they threw their fence on. There's coverage for this on the title policy. It's 0.5%. So $100,000 property costs $50 to have this coverage. You always have a legal backing on your title policies. Something shows up on title, something shows up on a survey. Shortages in the area. So and it's negotiable whether the buyer pays for it or the seller. This market, the buyer's paying for it pretty much, paying for everything. Survey. If we have an existing survey,
See what, I can't see it.
You can go closer. Pretty chill.
X was what we were supposed to do, will be amended to read.
yeah, will or will not. You don't have to do it, but it's highly suggested as cheap as it is. The most expensive one I had was recent, and it was on an $800,000 piece of land, and it was $600. That's the most expensive one.
So
I've
it's only
seen.
0.5%?
It is, somehow they figured it's
Something
a
like
half
that.
percent, yeah. That's actually less than 0.5%.
Yeah, it's more than
Okay, on page 3, C is survey. If we have an existing survey they're going to try to use, we're going to give them 5 days. And that's for them to do a T47 stating there's been no changes. Or if there are minimal changes and they wrote them in. And try to see if they can use the existing survey. It just saves money. And if not, buyer or seller can agree whether they're going to pay, and it's how you direct that. I always suggest, in D, under objections, I always suggest that we do not put something in the activity line. Meaning, somebody says, well, I gotta make sure I can have a pool, and I gotta make sure I can have a shop, and I gotta make sure I can have animals. You just limited your objections to those 3 items. So if you put nothing in that line, you can object to whatever you want to object to.
So it's best to leave that.
Yeah, leave it blank. I
I've
leave
always
it
left
blank.
it blank. Some people, well, a lot of agents put residents only
Mhm.
on there, but I just always leave
I
it
did
blank.
too my first several years until I realized I was limiting it to just that. So I quit putting anything in there. And I normally used to do 3 days, but so many people they work, they have kids, they get busy. I normally put 5 days in here, and especially if they have an attorney. Because, attorneys work 9 to 5, so.
Can I just say on that survey, on the number of days you have to get that T47 done, pay close attention to that, because one time I didn't realize how important that was, and the agent was cool and didn't call me on it, but Johnny said if the survey had been bad or something, I could have got stuck for paying for it. So
Yep.
get
Yeah.
that done within those days. Call the title. I always call it, if it's a title company that we know real well, I'll see if I can just arrange where they just go to the title company does it for them, all that kind of stuff, instead of them having to find a notary and all that sort of thing.
Well, in this case, it's the buyer. So we're trying to see that the seller did their job. If that seller fails to get that to the title company within 5 days, like it says, they are responsible to pay for that survey. If it isn't, they may take it later, but still, they basically, I don't like to use this word, basically they're in breach.
So,
They breached the
which
contract
means
because
really
they
you're
didn't
going
do.
to pay for it unless you want to make your seller really mad. So,
Yeah, if you have the listing, yeah, if you have the listing. But it's pretty easy to just email them that one page and ask them to print it and go by, their insurance company or bank and get a little notary, or FedEx stores have notary. There's no reason they can't get in front of a notary within 5 days. So, okay, so if it's in an HOA, it is or it is not. This particular house is not in an HOA. It's rare to not, but it's an older house, so it's not in an HOA. So you won't have that addendum. Page 4 pretty much doesn't affect most of our area here. It talks about annexing of taxes. It talks about propane gas state are in the area. So say you're next to a place that sells propane gas, there's an addendum to use. Tidewaters, it's pretty much, unless you're a waterfront property, it's not going to affect you. That tidewaters really means ocean. Water level fluctuations, I have seen that addendum. I have seen it come to be an issue at a lake, because there are lakes up and down, meaning it can go dry in a cove that you just bought a lakefront property in. Number 7, property condition. Are they accepting it as is? And it talks about, this is real important. This is, someone will say, well, seller says, oh yeah, I got a contract, I'm turning off the utilities. No, you're not. Contract says they're going to keep them on until the date of closing. So make sure, and they have to give access. They have to allow access. So read that and understand it. It says the seller shall permit buyer and buyer's agents access the property at reasonable times. Buyer may have the property inspected. Inspectors selected by the buyer and they're licensed with Texas Real Estate Commission. And they're permitted by law to make inspections. Any hydrostatic, meaning they want to do a pressure test on the water line, has to be signed off by the seller. It can damage the water lines. If they're not careful, it can damage the water lines. It has to be agreed upon. But normal inspections from roof to slab is fine. B is the seller's disclosure. Have you or have you not? I don't really like writing contracts unless somebody's seen the seller's disclosure, but in this market, everything flies. So I wouldn't give them over 2 days to turn it in, because that's part of your option period. So in this case, they have received it. Okay. If it's an estate, if it's a foreclosure, help me out here, broker. Estate, a foreclosure, not required to have seller's disclosure. So they are required, if it's an estate, they are required to tell you what they know. So say they've had access to that house for the last year and a half. They know a lot of things about that property. They can fill out what they know, only what they know. Okay, and D is the acceptance. Are they accepting it as it is, or are they requesting a seller to complete the following? Only time I put something in that seller to complete is following is in the listing. It says seller is completing painting a room and putting flooring in. I may put that in, but I don't put anything else in there, and there's a reason behind it. Everything in the state of Texas is as is until proven different. Okay? So I do as is, and then we do an inspection, then we know we need to ask for different. So I put what we're asking the seller on an amendment. So that's my way of doing it. You can do it the way you choose, but that's my way of doing it. Only if it's listed that they're doing an improvement. They're replacing an appliance, they're changing out a flooring, they're painting a room, they're doing something that they've said they're going to do. That's the only thing I put on that list. Completions of repairs, they're supposed to be done prior to closing. You need copies of receipts for your clients. If you do not know how to check for what was repaired, or your clients don't know how to check for what's repaired, you should suggest to them to have an update inspection. It's $100 to $125. You know, unless you're familiar with breaker panels or septic systems, sometimes it's best to get a professional back to check it.
If somebody's going to get a listing, and you've got one coming on, and the seller knows is a handyman type, and is going to replace something himself or fix something himself, he can do that before you get it listed. But once you get an inspection, then whatever repair is found needs to be done by someone who regularly does that. And if there's a license required, so if you have a listing coming up and there's something they want to do, have them do it before they get it on the market if they plan to do it themselves.
That is great information.
Keep all receipts and invoices.
And there's some people that say, I worked for a plumber for 20 years, I know what I'm doing. That's up to the buyer if they're okay with
If
that.
they're okay with it.
Mhm. Most of the time we put, service, air conditioning, HVAC, service by a licensed professional, electrical works repaired by a licensed electrician.
But when I'm talking to my sellers, oftentimes when it comes to those issues, and they say, well, what about this or that? I'm pretty sure I can. I'll say, well, again, they typically prefer a licensed person. I said, and you don't want to do this a little cheaper to make it work, and then the buyers come back at the end and say, this is not what we asked for. We asked for a license, whatever. So you're going to be in a bad situation when it comes time for that walkthrough.
Right. And I usually stay on them if, usually most of the ones I'm accustomed to dealing with, they do those repairs pretty quick. Unless they're real costly ones and they're waiting for clear to close and full approval, but most of them do them pretty quick and get those receipts. But those receipts are required. You are to collect those receipts. So, H is a residential service contract. We do have Fidelity coming. I do have a brochure from a CHOSA, which is you pick your own person to do the repair. And they call the CHOSA after they've evaluated, and they get paid on the spot. Hearing good things about that. We've had them come in before. They were real new. There were a lot of people from HWA, and that's where that started. A lot of people from HWA have gone to a CHOSA, so I wrote one for a CHOSA, and then I wrote one for, I've been writing them for Fidelity. You know, it's just sad what COVID did to the home warranty companies. It really is, because so many people, they wouldn't let people in their homes. Did you go with a CHOSA? Who'd you go with?
Still with HWA, I think.
Still with HWA?
I haven't
I've
really
written them with
needed
HWA.
Mhm.
I've written them with HWA. I've written them with Landmark. Landmark is owned by American Home Shield, but they spent $11,500 on my house in 4 years. But all of this stuff changed because of COVID, because people would not let people in their house because of COVID, unless it was an emergency, and they had to lay off a lot of their people. So the customer service kind of went downhill. So trying to come up with a solution, and Fidelity seems to be a pretty good solution, and CHOSA seems to be. So I need to check those contracts and see how much those policies are. Fidelity actually has an entry level one that's like $515. Some of it CHOSA is like $685. So make sure you put enough money in there for some of these. If an aid and a brokers and sales agent, if the sales agent or broker is related to the seller, that needs to be disclosed. Usually it's disclosed on the listing. Buyer and or seller and agent are related. That needs to be disclosed. And then pick your closing date. Very aggressive market. Try to work with a lender that can get you closed in 30 days. They like to see 30 days on the closing. And that means 5-day option, order the appraisal, have the appraisal there the next week, and roll. And make sure you get all your documents in. If you're going to do a 30-day closing, you got to roll. Your people have to roll. They have to be prepared. They can't drag their feet. Because I promise you, they got a backup buyer and they're not going to extend for long. So it's a crazy, crazy market, but we're going to survive it. Are we doing a temporary lease back, or are we doing up on closing and funding for possession in 10? Usually you need to ask that listing agent, what do they need time? What's their plan? Do they have a place to go? Sometimes they'll say, we need a temporary lease back for 5 days because my people are buying a home. So that means they close, movers are there, they're out, Molly maid comes in and cleans, boom, they turn over keys. If they have a place to go, last thing you want to do is moving out, empty the house. They spent the money to move, and it's not our problem because we had the buyers in this case, but it would be our problem for your listing agent. They moved, they paid money to move, contract goes south. Not happy campers. Not happy campers. Do make sure that that listing agent's aware that that seller, once they don't own that home on closing day, is officially no longer theirs. Do make sure that they let their insurance know that they are now tenants if they're there on a temporary lease. They need rental coverage. That gives you about $20,000 in damage coverage. Very important to make sure that listing agent is aware of that and sees that her client gets renter's insurance. If they're out up on closing and funding, as soon as buyer side signs, seller side signs, lender reviews, title says it's funded. At that moment, it's officially theirs, then they can have the keys. Do not give keys out before funding. Very, very important. Do not give keys out before funding.
You'll get asked, hey, can I go ahead and grab, or can I, and I don't ever do it, just like I don't ever execute a contract until I have that proof of funds or lender letter in my hand.
Special provisions, unless you know what you're doing, don't use it.
Right.
It is a legal, it's illegal. So once in a while, we have to put something in special provisions, but do get approval before you use special provisions. If something that the contract does not direct, and it needs directed, then we will use special provisions. But if there's any way to direct it in contract, that's what we want to do.
Or a form that matches it.
Or a form that you can use that matches it. But if you have to, there are conditions that you have to. You had one recently that was different. What was it? Do you remember what it was in special provision?
It was one of Andrew's. It was one of those where they were offering way over the sales
Yeah.
price, and if, depending on what the appraisal came in, if they'd still get a higher amount no matter what, and
Yeah.
yeah, real complicated. Johnny used to always like special provision, but I think that was before all these new forms started coming in and everything, and
Yeah.
which makes sense. I mean, it's
The
protection.
appraisal waiver form.
Yes,
I was
yes.
like, well, you really should use this form and then pick whichever box, you know.
It really should, but it is everyone that I talk to, you know, if I had time, and someday maybe I'll have time to be on the board at Trek and to guide on some of these forms that they use, that one is so complicated. It's so hard to understand it. You know, I see it a lot that they put buyers willing to pay up to $15,000 over appraised value. I see it a lot. Or I don't know, even that wouldn't be a reason, something that was going to convey. You've got a non-realty to use for something that's conveying. It's very rare that we use something there. Maybe this. Maybe you're buying a piece of property that's being divided and an easement's being given to the back property. Maybe at that point, easement paperwork will be drawn up by the title attorney to give the easement to that back property. Maybe something like that.
I know that on Aceable Agent, instead of special provisions, you could put like if there's multiple buyers or owners and they didn't fit on the something like that, but
You
if there's
can.
an addendum or anything that don't mess with that special provisions.
Yeah, you
Area.
can. Multiple parcels.
Right.
You
Okay.
can.
Okay.
So say it's included 3 different parcel IDs and there's not room to
Right.
put it in it. You can
Right.
put, this
And the special
includes
provision.
parcel da 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 da.
Right.
Yeah, that would be good. Multiple owners, yes. I've printed off a contract and I've drawn in lines and had 4 people sign and put an extra page on there so everybody had their little signing spot. One of the very first contracts I did, it was an estate and it had 4 family members that were signing off, and it was just page after page, and when they came in, it was the whole conference table, and they go from here to here to here, all the way back around, and then when I got to my person, it was to the other side, because I did intermediary on it,
Oh, goodness.
and so they had them all going all the way around, everybody signed, everybody
Right.
did, and then when I went to the buyer's side, it was just him. I was like, well, this is nice.
Well, one time I had a home, the parents had passed away, 2 of the daughters were living there, and there were 9 kids total, and to list it, I had to get all 9 to sign. Well, I went through all the trouble of getting 8 of them there, all ready to go, but then one of them said, nope, I'm not doing it. So I went through a whole bunch of time and effort for weeks to get all that put together, and one said, nope, not gonna do it, so.
Yep. Yep.
So the contract would have been interesting if we got that far on that.
Settlements and other contract or other expenses. If you're asking the seller to pay any of the closing costs, this is where you would put that amount. We do have Rosebud grant with Mid-America, which is like up to $15,000 if they qualify. So if you're
6% of
6% of sales price, so it could be up to further than that. Yeah, 18,000.
Yeah. So you really
Okay.
gotta check with the lender on what's
Make sure-
allowed, on their
yeah.
type of loan, and what they need, and what they have, and all that. So,
Hopefully they qualify for a grant and you don't have to put anything in this box.
Hmm.
Because sellers really don't like seeing something, because that means if you took $345,000 for this property, but you were asking for $5,000 in closing costs, Well, now you just offered her $340,
Right.
but don't do nothing but make her mad.
And in this competitive market right now, that's pretty much kiss of death for your offer.
It is kiss of death. It certainly is. Prorations, you will not see that mostly on taxes. You will see it some. Up until October, usually October, sometimes November, seller pays taxes from January 1st to the day we close. When you start getting into the end of the year, the tax statements already come out. So they collect the whole year from the seller, and then the buyer gives them a credit back for the amount of days. So those are really pretty firm prorations because they've already been given out for that year. But that's how that works because taxes are in arrears. So you have taxes for 2000. You don't pay them until 2021. So that's for the year before. And then so for this year, those taxes don't come out till the end of the year, till October. Usually October. So anyway, most of the time it's seller pays January 1st day of closing. If a person pays cash, this is real important to remember because they get real ticky at the end. Why am I getting a tax bill for $6,000? Because you paid cash and that seller gave you a credit. That's why you didn't take very much money to the closing table, actually less than you offered. They gave you a credit. Now at the end of the year, they're all yours. So cash gets a credit, paid at the end of the year. New construction have to be really, really careful that they escrow enough tax for that new construction. Because if they don't, they're going to base it off of land value. And at the end of that year, they get the big fat bill and these young people can't afford it. So then their payment just went up $300 a month to catch up on it. Be very careful that they are collecting enough tax in escrow to cover these people at the end of the year.
Also, just a little thing real quick. One of our lenders that we work with was saying that in new construction right now, they're putting like their, what is it? They're stalling, like they're putting a cap on how many houses they can sell a month because they've learned that they can make more money by limiting how many they sell each month. And then what they're putting in their contracts is that they will increase the cost of the home based off of cost of goods throughout. And so they're increasing the price as it's being built. So pay a close attention to those things too. If you're working with new construction.
Material costs have been rising, yeah.
I represent builders in sales. I have a builder, I just listed 3 properties in Azle. They're all under contract. You have to be very, very careful with it. Very, very careful. Prices are going up weekly. Prices are going up monthly. We have not put anything in our contract to adjust that, but he had already pre-ordered back in January. It's taken 16 weeks to get brick delivered for a house.
Wow.
Material.
It's taken 12 weeks to get windows. It's taken 10 weeks to get appliances. You can't find appliances.
And there's a shortage on refrigerators. we
Huge,
learned.
huge. So, be very careful on new construction. I don't just send my person over to the little home builder and let them sign something without me previewing it first. Period. So, and that's because they got these little print in there. It says, hey, we can adjust your sales price up to 3% monthly while you're building. What is 3% on $3,000? $300,000? $9,000 a month?
Yeah.
$10,000 a month? It's expensive.
Yeah.
So yeah, be very, very careful. Protect your client. That's why we get them, and that's why they refer us to other people. Escrow is where they collect money into your mortgage for. Actually, they've changed it. They're using California terms on escrow agent. So this is about the title company, and talks about the performance of the contract. And demands on terminations and who pays and who is in breach. So we're gonna need to read these things very, very closely. Really need to get a title company to come in and explain some things to you. But talking about release of earnest monies, if somebody walks away, that release of earnest money, if you're in your option period, many title companies will go ahead and release it. If you're not in your option and something has fallen apart, according to the contract, a release of earnest money has to be signed by all parties. Buyer, seller, listing agent, buyer's agent. All parties have to sign to get that released. And if they don't sign off on it, that money will go to the state. Or it'll sit there.
Yeah,
Or I can go to court, right?
Can go to court.
yeah.
We don't advise that. But,
Sure.
I have had title companies demand it, and they'll send it in demand that it be signed to be released. And if they don't respond within 10 days, then that gives them the ability to go ahead and release it. So, and then some of them will say, nope, we don't do that.
I think some are just afraid of the liability, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I meant said about the court thing sometimes. People, if they just, like, I think a lot of times people won't do it because it's not worth going to court for, $2,000 or $3,000.
No, it gets really costly. They're welcome to reach out to an attorney, a real estate attorney, and get an opinion. Notices on 21. I put, me personally, if I'm working with a buyer, I put notices to buyer at CC semicolon. I quit filling out the contract, sorry. Kim Bigley, Realtor. And then I put my email address below it. And then the last line on the email, I put the buyer's email. That way I'm copied on everything. The last thing I want is a buyer calling and saying, well, I just got so-and-so, and I don't understand it. If I'm copied on it, then I see what they get, and I've already seen it before they ever saw it. So most of the time, unless they're Johnny on the spot. So that's how I do mine. I normally don't give them a buyer's phone number. People don't want to be called and bring some of these young people that work at the title company, they just blow you up on phone calls, so I just do email. Anything you're attaching to this contract you have to check off. Third party finance addendum we're going to check off. If it was a contingent offer, buyer needed to sell another property to be able to produce, we would fill that out. If it was before 1978, we would do a lead-based addendum. Now, see, they've got all this over here on the right side. This is new for us. It's addendum regarding residential leases and residential fixture leases. And that's all new, so that's something that we're going to have to get really comfortable with. May take a whole class on those silly things. If they have an attorney that they want to review stuff, this is where you put the information in 23. Next one is executed date. So if we're just preparing this contract to present, it's not going to get executed until it comes back from the seller. Okay? So Henry Ford would have already signed it, but this Shannon K. Smith Etel would need to sign it, and if there weren't any changes at that point, it would get executed. All parties have to agree on every item, no initials needed, and the last party to complete signing is the one that executes. That makes sense? Mm-hmm. Buyer, seller, everybody agreed. Any changes are initial. Last party to do any signing is the one that executes. If I go too fast, you don't be sorry with me. Okay, so in this case, we're filling out for another brokerage. Say we're another brokerage, okay? And then this is where most cases your buyer's agent, you can put Premier Legacy, okay? And then the license number, we are an entity. This has not changed. We do have a different broker, but we are still the same license number. And that number is 0604101. That's our entity number. We're doing a buyer only as a buyer's agent. Listing agent, this is your name as it appears on your license, not if your abbreviated name. So, in my case, it's Kimberly Bigley. So many people want to say, you know, I'm Tom Smith, but really your real name is Thomas Allen
I
Smith
know,
or
I
something.
never, yeah, Trek's the only one that knows me as Sharon Renee.
So then you put
We all know you that way now.
Since they put it on there, I'm supposed to use it.
If you are registered as a DBA under the brokerage, do we now have a spot that says team? In my case, the Bigley Group is registered as a DBA under it, so it would have that. And then I'd put in your email address. If I'm gonna say this because we've been having a little issue with it. I'm not sure what the issue is. If you use a different email besides PremierLegacyRealEstate.com, you might want to put this in there because I've had some of my stuff not forwarding.
I was
On the
gonna
server.
say mine, I've noticed I'm not getting everything through
I
Premier
don't
Legacy Real
know
Estate.
why I don't know if it's timing out. I don't know why, but if you have a forward address that you forward everything to, and you want to make sure you get stuff, I'm still using my Yahoo. You tell how old I am. Then you put your phone number. And then if you have a supervisor, you put in the supervisor and their license number. Mosquito office, y'all would be having Bruce. The ones that work underneath me, they would have my name here and my license number. Ones that work under Sharon would have her information. Whoever your supervisor, who you report to, that's who you would have on there. And then our address for the office, 100, y'all are using eBrite, aren't you? Mosquito, eBrite, whichever office you're out of. We're 100 West Broad Street. I can't type today. Suite D, 20 Texas. And then you would fill out from the listing. I'm going to show you this. Most of you know this, some of you don't. At the bottom, it shows, well, in this case it was me, but if it had been someone different, this is the agency, the listing agent, the broker license number. So you can find all of the information for the other side right there. So if this was a different agency, then you would put in, you know, if they were Caldwell Banker, Keller Williams, whatever. You find the brokers on the right side. Find the broker's number there, name of the company here, listing agent here. And then sometimes if it has a supervisor, it'll have their name here and their license number here. So you want to fill all that out in your contract and then go down further.
You can copy and paste most everything except for the phone number.
Right. You can copy and paste phone number if you start at the right spot on the semicolons. Anyway, put your 3% in there.
Yeah, don't forget that.
Don't forget that or you might not get paid. You really could force it.
Tim, if I could say something on that part back up there on the both sides, if you want to give a red flag to the agent that you're working with, don't fill that out, and that's a lazy agent's
Well, it makes them mad.
MO. Yeah, and so it frustrates me. So it's not a good sign that this amount that's going to be John the spot on everything that they're working with.
Try to fill it out complete if you can. And then that on that side, in this case, would be seller only as seller's agent. So you would click that. So, and then any questions on the 1 to 4 new contract? Anybody got questions that you can think of? Don't be afraid to ask.
Just remember when she was talking
Old
about
memories, is your head hurting yet?
Nah, not yet.
There's some great
It's
things
coming back.
that just changed too.
when
We
Kim
used
was
to-
talking about
Well, what am
the part where attorney's information. Just remember, just be very careful. Anytime somebody starts asking you deeper questions that go beyond what you understand or wanting more legal information, we cannot give legal advice. you know, it's okay to say, well, you need to get an attorney to review that for you. Now, I don't know how you feel, Sharon, and I'll defer to whatever you want to do. In the past, I've had situations where I had an attorney who was willing to review something for the client and provided that letter or whatever. I don't know if you want us to do that or not, but how do you feel about that? Versus them having to go get their own attorney. Sometimes it's expedited things if I had someone that could review it for them. And
You know, I guess it's whatever you and your client want to do, whatever your client wants to do.
Okay.
You know, if it's a sticky situation, it may be best for them to choose who you can recommend someone, but yeah.
well, it's been a situation sometimes where that attorney did it for free and provided them the legal advice, but it wasn't me giving it to them.
Yeah.
But it was all documented as to.
Just make
this
sure
attorney.
it's not related to your attorney.
Yeah,
Sure,
something
sure.
like that. 'Cause it could be like, yeah, this was your guy, not my guy, you know, that kind of thing.
I had one yesterday that was same, and I had emailed because she asked me to email. She said, "You know I'll forget." I said, "I know you'll forget."
Kind of like when you're recommending home warranties or whatever, like a few options, because it's like I'm not, especially if you're getting anything in return, like some relationship,
But
compensation.
I emailed him and he called her
Disclosure.
first before he called me. And Dave told me how it should be done, so I could explain it to her in layman's terms. And he had a good opinion, and I told her what his opinion was. And she said, please talk to Kim because he'll tell me and I'll forget before I get off the phone. So that way she won't forget what we need to do. So it was a ladybird estate. If you ever heard of such.
Interesting.
It is interesting. I think everybody that's old should have one because it diverts Medicaid expenses off of the sale of the property. So someone they get to the point they don't want to make all the decisions for themselves. They put their house in a ladybird estate, so there were 3 children. So the 3 children own the house. Mom lives there till she dies. But the ladybird estate keeps all Medicaid. It gives the children automatic right to sell without having to go to probate. And it keeps all Medicaid expenses off the
Oh,
estate.
I remember going over that in class. I have lots of notes on that.
Yep. So I got my first one in 12 years. I've done life estates. I've done all kinds of estates. I've just never had one called a ladybird.
You're going to, even when you've done a few of these, you're going to occasionally make an error somewhere. And usually, if you're working with another agent who's a decent, thoughtful person, they'll catch it, or you'll catch theirs, and you work with each other. But they don't have to. They can go by the book if they want to. So I encourage y'all, for a while, don't hesitate to run something through me or Sharon or I still and I look over mine sometimes 3 or 4 times before I finally send it in. Even after both sides have signed, before I execute, I'll still look over one more time just to make sure there's not something that I've missed that could cause us a problem down the road. Now, there's a lot of things that you may mess up on. There are minor things that a lot of times a title company can fix it right there on the spot. It's not a big deal. But if at all possible, avoid those.
On the very last page, you might be pleased to know they just changed how they did the option fee. We used to have to go drive and take the option fee in person and figure out how to get it to the seller and all that. And now the escrow agent, we just turn it in with your title, earnest money to
Yeah.
title.
We
So
talked about
that's
that earlier,
so
but
much
it's
easier.
neat that we don't have to chase down the seller or the broker to go get a signature. So, Yeah, it's a lot easier, a whole lot easier. I think it's, it's just more simple.
Yeah, because people used to do it in the past and they'd say, oh no, we don't want to handle that.
And it's easy to get very busy, and I bet if I went back on my first, couple of dozen transactions, I bet some of those, if I went back and looked from a few years ago, there'd be some that had blank pages where it said the receipted page for earnest money or option fee. But every time now, I try to make sure when that escrow agent sends that receipted deal, or if I've gotten it done by hand with somebody, that I meet and keep that piece of paper, put it in my stuff to keep it, so down the road, go back and say, hey, I didn't get the option fee, or I didn't get whatever.
Yeah.
Or I forgot to receipt it. I had somebody ask me. Fortunately, I was driving.